Hi, Podheads. Welcome back to yet another episode of Over My Dead Pod. I'm Kylie Caldwell.
This is Kate Carter.
Holly is off on her honeymoon, so she's going to miss a good one. So I love hearing stories about cases that set precedents, and especially when the victim is able to get true justice. So today I'm going to tell you the story of Judy Malinowski, the first victim to ever testify at her own murder trial.
Ever.
Ever.
At her own murder trial.
Mhm. Judy Malinowski was born on August 26, 1983, and spent her life in New Albany, Ohio. It's a small suburb of the capital of Columbus. Cute, quiet little town. In Judy's family, we have her dad Thomas, mom Bonnie, younger brother Patrick, and younger sister Danielle. There isn't much online about Judy's early life, but I do know that she competed in beauty pageants, and in 2001, she actually won Miss New Albany. Obviously, a stunning girl, she was also homecoming queen. Another thing I couldn't quite figure out when, but at some point, I believe after high school, Judy was diagnosed with ovarian cancer.
Oh,
Rough.
yeah. Being pretty and like the homecoming queen thing is obviously she was popular too.
Oh, everything I read about her is like friends with everyone, could talk to anybody. But she did go through treatment and luckily was able to go into remission. Around this time, Judy met her husband, Ron Malinowski, and they welcomed their first daughter in 2004. Life was going great. Judy had her family she cared so deeply about. She was known to be friends with literally everyone, like I said. She was easygoing and just could keep the conversation going. Judy was also just naturally caring. She was always lending a hand, and she even volunteered at a local nursing home in her spare time. In 2006, though, bad news struck. Judy's ovarian cancer returned. She started treatment again, and during this, Judy found out she was pregnant again.
Oh no.
The couple welcomed their healthy second daughter in September of 2007, and things were looking up for a moment. But bad things always come in threes. The second bad thing to happen during this time was that husband Ron began an affair shortly after their second daughter was born.
Okay, what a dick, Ron. You don't do that
You don't do that ever, especially not now.
ever. Yeah, but in this circumstances especially.
So Judy and Ron did separate, but throughout this entire story, their divorce had not been finalized. I don't know if they ever filed, but Ron's out of the picture.
Okay.
Shortly after, Judy had to have a complete hysterectomy at only 27. The treatment wasn't working, so the last resort was to just remove everything. As major surgeries do, Judy was in a whole lot of pain and she began taking her prescribed opioids. Within a short amount of time, Judy quickly became addicted to them. Eventually, her insurance stopped covering the pills, and in an act of desperation, Judy turned to heroin.
I completely understand how people can get addicted so easily.
That's the cycle that
Yep.
we hear so often.
God, that's sad.
The thing about Judy, though, and you'll see throughout this entire story, she is a strong ass woman. Realizing the gravity of her addiction, Judy voluntarily checked herself into a rehabilitation program. She got clean, she moved into a sober living facility, and began attending NA meetings upwards of 5 times a week. The kids were living with Judy's family and their father. Judy is working on herself, but she's still very active in their lives. And also, she's on disability for her ovarian cancer. So life is kind of getting back on track.
Good for her.
That was until 2015 when Judy got a message on Facebook from a guy she didn't know. She clicked on his profile and saw that they had mutual friends, one of which being her ex husband, Ron. So she responded to this man whose name is Michael Slager. So the messaging back and forth on Facebook turned into phone calls, hanging out in person, and eventually dating. Judy was getting to know Michael, but what she didn't know was his criminal record. Prior to even meeting Judy, Michael had been arrested for theft, stalking, domestic violence, breaking and entering, making false police reports, aggravated menacing, assault, endangering the welfare of a child, and even rape, which he had pled down to sexual battery.
That's a good list.
Pro tip, everyone, look up the
Yeah.
criminal records of who you're going on a date with.
Yeah. Nowadays, I'm like, hell yeah, we Google everybody.
Oh, I know your mother's home address.
Yes. And maiden name, maybe even social.
So the red flags don't stop there. During their relationship, Michael also made Judy relapse. He began supplying her with drugs without her even asking, just like, here you go. And the worst part of this is that Michael didn't even use drugs.
Oh no.
It was a whole tactic to
Yeah.
control her and keep her around. As you can see, this relationship is going to be very toxic. Michael was also physically abusive. When they got into arguments, which often turned physical, Judy would run off to friends, family, or a hotel for help. She would call the police, begging for help and saying Michael wouldn't leave her house. Police, instead of helping, would say that in order for them to get Michael to leave her house, she would have to come back and tell him to leave in front of them.
I don't think that's how that works. If it's her property.
You would think so. And obviously, Judy was terrified to go back. So
Yeah.
that never happened. And as abusive relationships go, it takes so many tries to get out, and Judy kept going back. The fights continued, and Judy would call the police, but Michael always got out of it. Either before Judy could even call 911 or right after she did, he would call 911 himself and say it was Judy who was being abusive and she was the instigator.
Yeah. There's a pattern here.
In 2015 alone, Michael called the police on Judy for domestic violence 30 times.
But they have his record. So, like, wouldn't you think if he was actually like charged and convicted of this stuff, you would see this guy's phone calls and be like, maybe I shouldn't believe him.
Well, here's the thing, Judy's drug use.
Oh, shit. Yeah, that's right. Oh, man.
So, with this lack of help, Judy turned to her mom and she told her in May of 2015 that if she left Michael or if he even knew about this conversation, he would kill her. Judy's mom went with her directly to the police, but once again, nothing was done. According to the mom, they just dismissed her as a drug addict. Realizing she was at rock bottom once again, Judy made the strong decision to check herself back into a rehabilitation program, thinking it would save her life. Unfortunately, it ended up being a catalyst for her murder. On August 2nd, 2015, Judy was all set to check into rehab. She told her friends and family about it. Her bed was reserved. She just had to get there, so Michael offered to drive her. They pulled up to the facility, and Judy was just overcome with anxiety. It's a difficult program to go through. So she was like, okay, Michael, let's just go to a gas station real quick. Need to pick up some cigarettes. I'll call my family one last time. And after that, I'm checking in. He agrees, and they drive to a Speedway gas station nearby. As this relationship goes, the two start arguing during the drive. Once at the gas station, Michael went inside to buy the cigarettes, and Judy got out of his truck and went around to the back of the store. Behind this gas station is a bank, and both of these places have security cameras, so we can see Michael coming out to find Judy, and they start arguing again. At some point, Judy spit on Michael and threw a cup of soda onto him. And by now, he is full blown enraged, and he starts hitting her. At 5:08 p.m., Michael grabbed a gas canister out of the back of his truck and poured it onto Judy. Within a second, he took out his lighter and set Judy on fire. Obviously, there were a lot of witnesses at the gas station who all called 911, and first responders arrived quickly, taking both Judy and Michael to the hospital. Yes, Michael had some minor burns, but Judy's condition was described as, quote, melted, end quote. Judy had third and fourth degree burns covering 90% of her body. Her hair was obviously gone, but also her ears and fingers. Judy was immediately intubated and placed into a coma, and doctors said she had a 0 chance of surviving, like 100% mortality rate from these injuries. So, meanwhile, Michael is sitting in his little hospital bed, doing pretty good. Officers went to talk to him, and he immediately had a story all set up. He explained that it was all an accident. Some gasoline must have splashed on her at some point, and then a bit later, she had a cigarette in her mouth, and she asked him to light it for her. And then all of a sudden, she was ablaze.
I don't know to what, because I'm not a pyrotechnic, whatever person, but I don't know how much gasoline you need on you to engulf your entire body. But I assume it's not a drop.
No, I would think even if you had like a drop or two like on your clothing, it
It
would
wouldn't.
still take a minute for it to
Yes.
fully get everywhere.
Also, there's security cameras.
Luckily, police were immediately suspicious. They go to Judy's room and they ask the doctors if they could bring her out of sedation to ask her questions. Wild question. The doctors were like, hell no. One, the pain she's in, and
Yeah.
two, she doesn't even have ears anymore. We don't know if she can hear. The officers asked to at least try, so they did. They asked Judy if she spilled gasoline on herself. She shook her head no. They asked if Michael poured gasoline on her, and she shook her head yes. By now, police obtained and reviewed all the security camera footage from the gas station and the bank. Like I said, they were already suspicious of Michael's story, but this footage just solidified the truth. Once Michael was medically cleared to be discharged, he was brought to the station for further questioning. His story did change at this point, but don't expect a confession from this man. Michael explained that Judy had spit on him and threw the soda on him, ruining his clothes. So, in retaliation, he only poured the gasoline on her to also ruin her clothes. He insisted that he had zero intention on setting Judy on fire, and she was the one that lit her own cigarette, thus set herself on fire. It wasn't him. But Michael couldn't get out of this one. He ended up being charged with felonious assault and aggravated arson. So, mind you, Judy is still alive, intubated and in a coma, but still alive. With the odds she was given, law enforcement decided to just kind of wait for her to die so that they could charge Michael with murder.
What? I get what they're saying, but like you can change the charges later on. Like you can add on a murder charge.
So I think their thought process is, okay, we'll get him for the assault and arson. We'll throw him in jail with that. And then once Judy passes, then we can go with the murder.
Okay, okay.
Judy was in the hospital for over 700 days, 7 months of which was in a coma. She underwent over 60 surgeries, had multiple infections, and coded 7 times. As we know, even stepping foot into a hospital in America is costly. Imagine being there this long and requiring this much medical intervention. So, Judy's family applied for funding from the Victims' Crime Assistance Program. So, every state has a program that will provide financial compensation to victims of violent crimes. These funds are to help with medical costs, therapy, lost wages, and even funerals. So, they apply, and Judy got denied.
Why?
Because she had cocaine in her system at the time of the attack.
I don't think that that should matter.
The cocaine didn't set her on fire.
No.
On a brighter note, though, in the spring of 2016, Judy suddenly awoke from her coma and could actually talk. I have no idea how she's still alive.
No, I don't get it.
Her trachea was damaged, so she could only whisper, but still. At first, Judy couldn't remember anything that had happened to her, but slowly all the painful memories of Michael came back. Which brings us to our first trial in December of 2016. This is the trial for arson and assault, and Michael went in pleading not guilty. He's still claiming this was an accident, despite the security footage showing exactly what he did. Michael did eventually change his plea to no contest. It's kind of confusing, but it means that the defendant isn't admitting to their guilt, but they agreed that the prosecution has enough to convict them. It's basically a cop out and they don't have to admit to anything or go through a whole trial.
It's a cop out. I also just don't really understand why it's a thing. I've never really understood it.
So this cop out is perfect for Michael. And a bigger reason he ended up doing this was because Judy wanted to testify against him from her hospital bed. He can't even face her in court, so he ended up being sentenced to 11 years in prison.
That's it.
That is it.
God, I love the justice system.
After the sentencing, it was bittersweet. Michael was in prison, but everyone knew what was going to eventually happen. Judy was going to pass away from her injuries, and that time seemed to be coming soon. So, prosecutors, anticipating a murder trial, approached Judy with a question. How do you feel about testifying at your own murder trial? It had never been done before, and it actually hasn't been done since. So, with no legal precedence, prosecutors weren't quite sure how it would work out, but it was worth a shot. And Judy agreed. She was going to do everything she could to make sure Michael faced justice for what was to come. She told her mom, quote, "Not even an ant should be set on fire. I got a life sentence and he didn't," end quote. The whole ordeal to even videotape Judy's testimony was a whole ordeal. Prosecution and Michael's defense team met with the presiding judge, I don't know how many times, arguing about how this was going to work and even if it was admissible. Eventually, the judge decided that Judy's film deposition could be used at trial, but there were caveats. Wow. Thanks to the defense team. I understand defense lawyers want to get everything thrown out and make everything difficult, but this reaches like a whole new low.
Oh.
They successfully argued that Judy should not be allowed to testify while on medications like the sedatives and pain control medications she was on.
Oh, so they want her to be completely clean of everything and with her 90% plus body burned.
Like a pain like no other.
Legally, they're fighting for their client, but that is horrific. I understand that.
Ethically, not.
Horrid.
So the prosecution team had to go back to Judy and ask her again, "Are you sure you want to do this?" Still, she said yes. So Judy was moved from the hospital to a care facility, being placed into hospice without further medical intervention. She was slowly weaned off of all the medications she was on, and it took several weeks. Once off the medications, Judy's mental state had to be assessed in front of the judge to prove she was of sound mind. After all this and everything was approved, everyone went to Judy's bedside and they recorded a 3-hour testimony. 6 months later, on June 27th, 2017, Judy passed away while at the care facility. She left behind her 2 children, parents, siblings, friends, but she also left behind a very powerful story of a very strong woman. 1 year later, Michael Slager's trial for 2 counts of aggravated murder began, and this time he was facing the death penalty. The entire trial, the defense team kept trying to get Judy's testimony thrown out, but finally, on July 5th, 2018, it was shown in the courtroom for the first time. And at this point, no one had seen it outside of the prosecutors and the defense. In her testimony, Judy is upfront about her substance abuse issues. She was also super clear as to what Michael had done to her, not just that day, but all of the past abuse. The defense was able to cross-examine Judy, and they really leaned into the drug use. They asked her about her drug use before her hysterectomy. They asked her if she knew that Michael's previous girlfriend had passed away from an overdose, which, by the way, just makes your client look more guilty since he was the one supplying the drugs to Judy.
Yeah, I don't really know what they were trying to do with that one.
Yeah, I don't know if they were trying to say, like, oh, if you knew that his past girlfriend died from an overdose and that Michael has drugs, like you knew what you were getting into.
Right.
You signed up for this?
Honestly, if I was part of the jury and I watched that 3-hour video, because I assume they all had to, I think I would probably cry. I'm tearing up right now, but I'm also pregnant, so I haven't even watched it. But seeing the pictures of her in the hospital, just, oh my God.
The defense also grilled her on how she paid for her apartment with just her disability pay, accusing her of stealing money from Michael, how EMTs were called to the apartment for an apparent overdose for Judy. They asked her to confirm that when Judy's mom cut her off financially, she started panhandling to pay for drugs. The defense even went into this whole thing about how drugs make people violent and that there are all these reports of Michael calling 911 on Judy for being violent. Judy was even asked why she didn't remove any of her clothing or try to run away when she caught fire.
Stupid questions.
This cross examination was obviously super invasive and cruel, but the last bit I want to share from it is what Judy wanted. Judy asked the court to not pursue the death penalty because it wasn't something she believed in. After Judy's testimony was shown in court, Michael changed his plea to guilty.
Oh,
He didn't get a deal, thank God.
yeah.
He was still sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole.
Good job, Judy.
Before Judy Malinowski had even passed away, and after Michael's first trial, her family began to fight for stricter punishments. They began to campaign for Judy's Law, which would increase the maximum sentence for a defendant who intentionally disfigured someone with use of an accelerant. It allows for a judge to add up to 6 years in prison for the defendant. The law was unanimously passed by the Ohio Senate the day after Judy's passing.
Oh, wow. Very quickly.
Judy's family is not done with their fight, though. They created Judy's Foundation, which you can check out at judysfoundation.org. It was created to, quote, assist individuals and families suffering from what we believe to be a worldwide crisis of domestic violence, drug abuse, and human trafficking, end quote. The foundation is not only trying to get Judy's Law enacted in every state, they also offer support and resources to victims and work with first responders to address situations with abusers. Judy's Foundation has also created Judy's House, a safe place for single mothers and their children to go when faced with domestic violence. So Judy Malinowski went through a lot in her short 33 years here, but through it all, she was a fighter, and her strength will continue to go on to help others. And that was the ongoing story in the legacy of Judy Malinowski, the first victim to ever testify at their own murder trial.
That has to make a big impact too, because I understand, like when you first said testifying at their own murder trial, I was like, oh, you mean like attempted murder, thinking she wasn't going to die, obviously. But for this to be the only case that's ever happened to, I understand because you never really get to catch everything ahead of time. Good for her too. What a fighter. Well, people, listeners, potheads, we were gone for a week, if you hadn't noticed. A little breaky break, a little Arkansas break.
A
And
little
then
party.
it was a party. It wasn't really a break. I'm actually very tired from the break that we had.
Yeah, I came home and found bruises on my body,
Yeah, I feel like I've been hit by a semi,
and you didn't even drink.
and I was sober the entire time. And obviously, Holly's not here today. We talked about it before we left, but our girl got married over the weekend. And
Mhm.
so we traveled to the wonderful Bentonville, Arkansas, which Kylee and I have been to before to celebrate Holly for her engagement last year. And so that her and her now husband, Luke, which I will not be changing his name in my phone as Holly's boyfriend. He gets that title forever. And I don't think I'll change her last name either.
It takes me years to change people's last names. Like I changed your last name maybe a year ago.
I honestly like love Cam, but I feel weird still. Sometimes I catch myself saying, "Oh, Kate Kellum," and I'm like, "Oh shoot, I haven't been a. It's been a hot minute." Or if I say Kate Carter, I still always feel kind of weird because you go your whole life with that name, you know.
It's a tricky situation. Why do we even do that?
I think it's stupid, honestly. And then for the kid to have the father's last name, they ain't
Rude.
doing the work.
Rude.
Rude. I get like, okay, so like my girlfriends, whenever they get married, they have very simple last names, Smith and Bass. So like they might hyphenate, or a new thing too, a new trend, and we have this in Cameron's family is you just make your own last name, a new one.
I've seen TikTok videos of people like friends and family like put in suggestions
Yeah.
and people
It's
vote.
fun, but like you're not keeping your family legacy going, like the name completely stops there because then you have kids that's no longer a family name.
I'm the last one with my last name. It dies with me.
It dies with you. Unless you get a boy and you name give him your I don't see any of that happening.
No. I don't see marriage and children in your future.
Honestly, Kylee, there may be a day where you meet it just takes the right person. Maybe you've met him, maybe you haven't.
I hope I've met him. I would like to adopt a little child,
Oh, I could see that.
like a little bit older.
Yeah, yeah. Not a baby.
I want to skip the baby phase.
Yeah, I couldn't see you being pregnant.
Oh, over my dead body.
Yeah, literally. I don't think I could. I mean, sure, if it happens one day, I'm going to support you, but I could totally see you being adopting or just hanging out with your being cool Aunt Kylee.
I'm funny Aunt Kai Kai.
Yeah. So, anyways, we were in Arkansas. We had the wedding of a lifetime. Holly and her family did an amazing job with the venue and the decor, and Holly looked gorgeous. We'll have to post a picture on
Yes.
Instagram of her in her dress whenever she wants to.
It is so funny in the pictures.
Yes.
After the ceremony, Holly had taken her heels off. All of us. Okay, first
Did
off,
not.
all the
Why did
all
we
the
not take our shoes off if Holly did?
because you could see our feet.
Yeah, well, tell them about how tall we all are.
Holly, I don't even know how tall she is. Legally,
Let's
might
say
be.
like 5'2",
Kate and I are the next shortest at 5'7" out of
which
all
is
the bridesmaids.
nuts. We've ever since we known Holly, she's always been the shortest. And because Kylee and I are 5'7", she's like 5'2" ish. And so Holly's always been the short friend, and we were like the tall girls. We show up to this mother effing wedding, and Holly's other bridesmaids are like pushing 6 foot.
And then add heels on top of that.
And then add heels. And so after the ceremony happened, that's when we took our group pictures instead of before. Holly took her shoes off. All of us were dying in our heels. I don't know why we didn't take ours off. So the pictures, we're like now a good foot taller than her at least.
She
It does look a little funny. She looks 4'5" in those pictures. Yeah. Borderline small person.
we still love her, even
Yeah,
if
we
she's
do.
little.
And she looked gorgeous, but she looked itty bitty because she has really tall friends. And I would also like to Google that and see if that's like a syndrome of some sort that like she can't have any friends that are her height.
It must be. She has to be like stand out in some way, you
Like
know?
she can't have other small friends. I'm
No.
gonna Google it right now.
Does she think it's gonna like rub off on her? Like she's gonna grow?
Oh wait, no, no. This is a fear of tall people is giantsophobia, and a negative reaction to tall people is called tall poppy syndrome. But there isn't a specific, okay, according to AI, there isn't a specific syndrome name for wanting only taller friends, but your preference likely stems from deeply ingrained societal basism that link height with power. So like if Holly has all tall friends, she feels like, oh yeah,
Like
successful.
we're her bodyguards.
I mean, which is true.
Yes.
If someone was coming to kill us, is Holly the one that's going to protect us? Probably
No.
not. We
No,
would
we'd
just pick her up and run.
I'd put her on my back like a little backpack.
Little babe, I'll put her in a baby carrier. She can go in my pocket. At least she doesn't have tall Poppy where she hates tall people.
Oh, we wouldn't have even been in the wedding.
Yeah. Anyways, we had a blast, and Holly is now in Iceland
Probably freezing her butt off.
having the time of her life.
We have to talk about the museum we went to.
Oh, we had an experience while in Arkansas.
We went to Crystal Bridges Museum, very famous, beautiful museum.
Beautiful. Yeah, it was great.
We had the stroller with the baby, the elevator's down. So we had to go, I don't know which way. We ended up going through it backwards, I guess.
Yeah, we saw the whole museum accidentally.
We got lost and we missed a reservation to go see the Frank Lloyd Wright house because Kate's mom was stopping and crying at every single painting.
Shout out Yolanta. I know you're listening to this. Okay. Let me give her the benefit of the doubt on this one. So we show up, we know it's an art museum, okay? We knew it was like a famous art museum, but not to the extent of maybe it that it was. And so we're walking around this art exhibit, and like there's these big names in this art exhibit, huge names, huge, massive. There's like no security, there's no tape lines. You could touch all of the paintings if you wanted to. I mean, it was very like it was a very casual space to walk into, and there's very famous paintings and names in there. And so it's Kylee, myself, my husband Cameron, Millie, baby Millie's with us, and then my mom Yolanta. And so it's a good chunk. Well, taking a child, a bebe, a toddler, to an art museum, first of all, you can't stop and look at all the pictures. That's just not how that works. She don't even see the pictures. She don't care. Give two shits.
No, I mean, she's this tall. She just sees the wall.
Right. She wanted the sculptures. The sculptures were cool. And then the people that were also walking in the museum. So she didn't really care. So we're on like a fast pace. Also, we had 1 hour until we needed to leave to get Millie back for her nap time. So we're kind of like a timeline in our head. Okay. Like we can't stop and look at all this stuff. Oh, that's so cool. Like Georgia O'Keeffe. Like, oh, nice. I've never seen that before. Like, cool. And then you just keep walking. There was no time for reading.
Mhm.
We lost my mom, Yolanta, 5 million times. We're way ahead of the pack. We're like gone. We're at the exit doors actually already.
I
Waiting.
was doing laps around the place. I'm like, well, I might as well just walk around.
Right. Couldn't we saw all the paintings like 5 million times. And then Yolanta is just at painting number 2, still at the front door. And we're like, what's going on? So Kylee and I go back, Cam's with the baby. Kylee and I go back to like check in on mom and be like, hey, hate to do this, but kind of got to rush you because we need to keep going. And she literally turns and looks at us, and her eyes are just like she's got tears in her eyes. It was a very dramatic, like 20 seconds.
Okay, I need to add that this is the very first painting, right when you
Yes.
walked into that exhibit.
Yes. We're still at the front door. We're still at the front door after we've already done laps. So we're still at the front door. Yolanta turns around. She got tears in her eyes. And we're like, Mom, what's wrong? Like, what's going on? And she, because my mom's the cutest thing in the whole world. And she's a wonderful human. I can't explain that enough. And she is just telling us, like, I didn't think I would ever see these paintings. These are such famous people and paintings. I wasn't expecting this. Like, I think I'm overwhelmed with emotions because I didn't know that this would be here. And this is a once in a lifetime opportunity. And Kylie and I are just staring at each other and we're like, yeah, love you. We got to keep going. Like, you can't, come on, hippity hop hop. And I felt so bad because my mom's like enjoying all of it. She became an art fan that we didn't know was an art fan, like I had no idea she loved art to that extent. And we've talked about it afterwards, and she's like, I'm not like a crazy art person, but you just never would have. I didn't think I'd ever see a Georgia O'Keeffe like picture, a painting and stuff. And I'm like, yeah, cool. So that was a highlight of the trip, I will say. And then 2 days later, after the wedding, we all went downtown Bentonville to go have lunch.
Wait, you are skipping the best part of the museum.
What?
The beaver.
Go ahead. You're right. It wasn't even planned.
We're sitting, they had like a cute walking area with sculptures outside. We sit on a bench, take a little break. All of a sudden, across the creek, Kate notices the world's largest beaver.
It's not enclosed in captivity. It was a real on its own. It was leaving the river that we were sitting and watching. It was leaving the river, exiting, and going up a little tiny hill to go into its little cave. And it was the thickest, it was thickums. It was the thickest beaver I've ever seen in my whole life. He was by himself, he or she. And at the bottom of the river or pond or whatever, it was like a giant thing of branches. So he's been working hard.
Oh, he was making his own sculptures.
He was loving it. He was thick.
Oh, I loved him so much. I've never seen a beaver out in the wild. It was great.
I don't think I have either. I really don't. So yes, I forgot about that part. Okay, so now fast forward 2 days, right? And we'll end on this note. I know you guys are probably getting bored of our shenanigans, but so 2 days later, post wedding, all right, fantastic. Cameron's already left. He went back home. It's Kylee, my mom, I, and Millie, and we go downtown Bentonville because we're gonna go eat lunch and just walk around the little shops, stuff like that. Have a chill day, and it feels great outside, fall weather. And so we're walking around, we're having a blast. And Kylee and I are going into shops and stuff. And we walk past a shop and it looks cool. And so I kind of peek in and it's like this artsy fartsy shop, but it has lots of paintings and stuff like that. And I looked back at Kylee and I said, Kylee, you want to go in? And you said not with the art critic, talking about my mom, who's like 5 feet behind us. Kylie's like, I'm not going in with that art critic. Like, we'll be stuck here for hours. And it was just in the moment, it was the funniest thing. It was very witty, very witty,
Thank you.
good
Thank
timing.
you.
And then I told my mom, and she's like, I'm not an art critic. I'm a fan. And I'm like, Mom, you would have cried. Apparently, you cry at paintings now. So I think forever we will now have the joke of my mom being an art critic,
Well, at least now we know,
not to go to art museums with her
unless we have the whole day blocked off.
or museums. Now I'm afraid, even sculptures and stuff.
Yeah, what does she do at natural history museums, like with dinosaurs?
I assume she stops and reads every single one, which I have no issue with. I love museums when I'm not pregnant and I have time because I also can't stand for that. Like, I needed to keep sitting down and stuff like that. But I don't know that I would go to another art museum right now with my mom. I think I might have to put a few year pause on that until my social patience has caught up and maybe I'll cry with her. Who knows?
Well, listeners, if you have any art museum recommendations for us to go to in about 5 years,
Let Yolanta know.
yeah, don't let us know.
Yeah, we know. Yeah.
All right. With that, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Over My Dead Pod. We'll be back next week. I don't know if Holly will be here. We'll find out.
Probably not.
Make sure you subscribe, follow us on Instagram for updates and news and all that jazz. And goodbye.
Bye.